Hello, my name is Steve Jobs, and today I would like to teach you about education motions. Education motions in debate are like the cheeseburgers of the debate world. They're easily accessible and they're so delicious. I'm gonna make a video series that describes all of the different types of debate motions and break them down one by one. And I want to get started with the education motion because it is by far the easiest category of debate motion. By education motions, I'm talking about debate topics that are about the raising of adolescents and about schools. So any debate motion that is about teachers, schools, students, those are all education motions. So here are some example education motions. Motions such as, this house believes that studying abroad at a young age does more harm than good. This house would require politicians to send their children to public schools. This house would heavily implement the use of ChatGPT into the school curriculum. This house prefers a world where children are raised in well-run state facilities rather than in individual families. This house would never expel primary students from schooling. So these are very good examples of education motions. They all share the same themes about schooling, about teaching, and students. But as I said before, education motions are pretty accessible, mainly because when we start teaching debate to people who just started, we usually start with education motions. They are the most straightforward and easy to understand. But why are education motions the easiest to understand? It's because debate students are students. And they're in school right now. Like a high school student has been in school for over a decade. So they should kind of understand what school is like and what education motions are like. But because education motions are so easily accessible, 95% of debate tournaments have at least one education motion in it. And in fact, most of these debate tournaments have their first motion of the tournament as an education motion. Usually, not always, but usually. So now that you know that your motion is an education motion, how do you win? Well, the most important thing in an education motion is the students, because they're the ones being educated. And honestly, as a society, we care about children a lot because they are the future. And when it comes to education motions, we have to talk about the role of the school. So there are two main roles that the school must accomplish. One is to make the students into good people. People who have upstanding moral compass and love their neighbors and themselves and their family. The second thing is that the school must make these students work ready, or ready to be capable members of society that can contribute in terms of getting a job or making money or making businesses. So in order to win the debate, you have to prove that your side of the debate is able to achieve these two outcomes better than the other side of the debate. So you have to prove that you can make a more moral, upstanding, hardworking, and intelligent student rather than the other side. Even if you identify those two outcomes and try to prove that those outcomes are on your side, there are other clashes in education motions that are important as well. And so let's talk about those common clashes that you can find in education motions. One of these important clash themes in education motions is on the idea of social mobility. Social mobility. So hard to say. Okay, so one important clash that you could come across in an education motion is the clash social mobility. And this is the idea of whether students can go up and down in the socioeconomic ladder from poor to middle class to rich, just based on how hard they work at school. I think most reasonable people agree that the perfect school systems would be school systems that are meritocratic and that allow students to work really hard to move up and down the socioeconomic ladder. As in, if they study very hard, they should be given chances to earn more money and do better in life. So that is the theme of social mobility, and whichever side achieves this better would win the clash. Another common theme in education motions is on school values, and specifically between progressive and conservative values at school. So this sort of has to do with, do we teach religion, LGBTQ rights? What parts of history do we teach? Anything that has to do with traditional values or progressive values and how those two things interface with school, that's kind of what the clash is about. Another clash could be on the idea of freedom within schools. Should schools have more surveillance and monitor the students more tightly? Or should the schools give the students more freedom and the ability for them to explore on their own? This is also another clash that happens between how we should teach and how much freedom we should give. Another really important clash is on the idea between community and competition. As you know, schools can be highly competitive, but they can also be highly cooperative. And you'll find that in different school systems around the world, some are more competitive. Mostly like East Asian school systems are very competitive, whereas some Western school types are a little bit more cooperative and push the idea of teamwork more. This clash is basically on what is more ideal. Should we have more cooperation or should we have more competition? Those are some of the common clashes you could find in an education motion. However, education motions are wildly diverse. And due to the fact that education itself is dynamically changing these days with the advent of ChatGPT, and ever since we went through COVID, these education motions are also so diverse and dynamic. For example, there's a lot of new topics that we've never had to deal with before. Topics about the connection between AI and education, about the use of technology in education, about the effects of social media on students. There are so many new topics about education. Even though it's a very basic debate category, it can be highly complex and topical. So yeah, that's all I wanted to go over when it comes to education motions. I'm sure I'll go over some more debate topics in the future, debate categories. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. And until next time, have fun debating. See ya!